Where is unassailable happiness found? In solitude, abiding only in oneself, there lies infinity. Do not waste time meditating on chakras, nadis, padmas, mantras of deities, or their forms. If you yearn for liberation, do not engage in the practices of yoga, japa, or anything of that sort. There is no worship, no worshipper, no japa, no meditation. There is nothing to be known except emptiness. As long as everything a person sees, thinks about, or seeks for their actions is influenced by their fate, let them meditate on that which transcends perception and even imagination. One who does not meditate on the all-pervading emptiness becomes entangled in samsara, like a silkworm in its own cocoon. No matter how favorable the conditions into which a person is born in this world, there are always endless sufferings for the individual, again and again in every birth. To avert them, one should meditate on the infinite emptiness. The path is prescribed only for attaining knowledge. Abandon all forms of yoga involving actions and meditate on emptiness. By focusing the wandering mind, even more unruly than a monkey, on the absolutely empty emptiness, nirvana is attained. Just as a fire extinguishes itself when no fuel is added, so the mind dies when it is not fed with thoughts. The mind often wanders in daydreams or falls into sleep. Be vigilant and return it to its primal state again and again. Once the mind becomes steady, leave it in peace. One should not think of anything, only stabilize the mind in its true state. The mind seeks attachment, which causes it to wander. Destroy its attachments to turn it inward and stabilize it there. Do not disturb the mind now. The mind should not be fixed on concepts like above, below, outside, or inside. It must remain constantly unattached. Awaken the sleeping mind and calm the excited mind. If the mind is neither asleep nor excited, do not disturb it. When the mind, left to itself, clings to nothing, grasps nothing, and is completely free of thoughts, that is liberation. Those who meditate on absolute emptiness and practice to the end become established in that inexpressible state, which transcends birth and death. The wise should not regard the body with aversion. It will die on its own when prarabdha karma is exhausted. Detach from all connections to country, status, caste, and their duties, and constantly contemplate your own natural state. Do not reap the fruits of actions, worldly activities, or religious rituals. Instead, free yourself once and for all from all actions and norms of behavior. Let the disciple renounce conventional customs and traditional practices as chains of bondage. Let them reject any miraculous powers or amulets, even if directly offered, for all these are like ropes to bind a beast and will surely drag one downward. Supreme liberation is not attained through this path. It is found nowhere except in infinite consciousness. One should practice yoga by all means to the best of their ability, regardless of other pursuits. Festivals should be avoided, even if held in temples or other sacred places. One should not be interested in harmful prayers, invoking death or pain for enemies, gaining favor from the powerful, or love from a beloved. Worship of images should not be an end in itself. Renounce worship of sacred places and images, the performance of religious rites, and engage only in meditation on consciousness. Equanimity is balance in pleasure and pain, among friends and enemies, with a mere stone and with gold. The disciple should not be swayed by desires, or seek to satisfy the senses. They should find ecstasy only in the emptiness, free from desire and fear. One should always maintain equanimity in honor and dishonor. One should treat all beings equally, making no distinction between oneself and others. Jealousy, slander, pride, passion, envy, love, anger, fear, and suffering should gradually be eradicated until they completely vanish. One should avoid disputes, worldly gatherings, and quarrels. Even spiritual debates should not be indulged in, regardless of their merit. If a person is free from the pairs of opposites and lives in solitude, abiding only in oneself, perfect wisdom will shine within them, even in this body. Since liberation is the result of knowledge, miraculous powers are utterly useless. Only a disciple still craving worldly pleasures desires them. Serious seekers who honor the enlightened with flowers, water, food, or through word, deed, and thought upon meeting them, will be forgiven immediately. By praising the enlightened, they share in their merits. By slandering them, they share in their faults. Cast away all fears of following this path, and abandon all doubts. Renouncing attachment and desire for anything, be ardent in seeking ultimate knowledge with sincere devotion and a clear mind, free from any trace of confusion. Claiming nothing as mine, filled with compassion, protecting all living beings so that no creature fears you, follow the singular path sincerely and unwaveringly. One who can subdue their restless and turbulent mind, like a hurricane, and hold it in a state of calm, is truly Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. They are the guru of all gods. They are the supreme yogi and the one who has attained the fruit of their austerity. They are the one who has reached the true spiritual goal. The means by which this restless mind, moving faster than the wind, can be brought under control is indeed the means to attain liberation. The stillness of the mind is the sole good for those seeking the unchanging reality. It is, in itself, pure consciousness and a state of unshakable stability. Moreover, it is the one righteous duty for discerning seekers. It is the one charity. It is the one austerity. Know that there is no doubt about this. When the mind moves even slightly, it is samsara. When the mind is firm and unmoving, it is liberation. This is certain. Therefore, know that the wise seeker must firmly hold their mind in the highest awareness of emptiness. The happiness attained in solitude, abiding only in oneself, is the supreme boundless bliss. Which prepared seeker would not delight in this ultimate reality, where there is absolutely no action? Having abandoned worldly knowledge, the disciple who has mastered pure wisdom in which there are no objects of the senses will surely attain liberation. The state of mind completely free of all attachments is pure wisdom which must be attained. The emptiness that is the infinite and all-encompassing one whole without a second, which is the radiance of pure wisdom, entirely free of visible phenomena and consisting of the aspect of I. This is the seed that bears fruit as liberation, granting salvation. Never contemplate, even in the slightest, on chakras, nadis, deities associated with chakra locations, mantraksharas, sacred syllables for worshipping these deities, or various mandala murtis, for these distract from the direct path of knowledge. Those who seek eternal liberation need not attempt to practice the repetition of countless mantras or methods of yoga such as pranayama, breath retention, and concentration. For those whose minds constantly expand, clinging to external objects, driving forces will always arise, causing an increase in bondage. Know that if the mind, wandering outward, is turned inward to abide in its natural state, one will no longer be subject to any suffering in the world. Unite with that one all-pervading reality, which has no outer or inner, is free from all notions of directions such as up, down, or between, which assumes all forms in creation, yet is itself formless, which can be known only by itself, and shines by its own light. People perform actions with their own goals in mind, and accordingly reap the consequences of their actions upon achieving those goals. Therefore, do not engage in such actions that are not free from flaws, leading to bondage. Completely turn your attention away from external objects and focus only on that which cannot be seen. If one does not meditate on this great all-pervading emptiness, the space of consciousness, they will remain samsaric, worldly, eternally bound to earthly attachments, like a silkworm in its own cocoon. All living beings, regardless of species, suffer greatly, again and again. To avert all these sufferings and sorrows, meditate on the great emptiness constantly, without interruption. The mind that strives for worldly things is even more restless than a monkey. If it is restrained from wandering toward external objects and held in emptiness, liberation is attained directly. The outwardly expanding mind attains peace by calming itself naturally when prevented from clinging to anything, just as a fire gradually extinguishes when no fuel is added. Through sleep and thoughts, the mind always loses its sharpness, its folly grows, and it moves toward ruin. By awakening this mind with effort and not allowing it to wander, establish it in the state of emptiness. Persist in this effort, anchoring the mind again and again in its natural state. Once the mind becomes steady, do not disturb it in any way. There is no need to think of anything else, even slightly, harboring any doubts. Having firmly anchored the mind in this state of self-awareness, keep it calm. Urge the mind, which constantly clings to some support attaching to objects of the senses, to avoid all such supports. Having made your mind always restless and clinging to external supports, motionless, do not disturb this stillness even in the slightest. Meditate on the incomparable emptiness that fills diverse forms, yet remains untainted, unaffected by them, like space that encompasses all creations, yet remains untainted upon their dissolution. When the seeker embarks on the path of practice, through which their mind, restless like the wind, becomes eternally still, then the purpose of their birth as a human being is fulfilled. Do not practice meditation by fixing the mind on the 6 centers, Adhara chakras, above, below, in the middle, or anywhere else. Abandon all such meditations and keep the mind always free from any support, inside or outside. If the mind falls asleep, awaken it. If you attain a state where there is neither sleep nor movement of the mind, abide calmly in it, the natural true state. The state in which the mind is unable to cling to any support, always flawless and pure, free from worldly attachments, is the nature of liberation attained through knowledge. By completely dispelling all attachments, always persevere in your practice to enhance awareness, which will then shine with greater radiance and clarity. Know that one who meditates on the supreme emptiness becomes abiding in it through the power of constant practice, and will certainly attain the great state that transcends birth and death. Gods and goddesses, virtues, faults, and their fruits, objects of attachment and knowledge of these objects, all lead to bondage in the mighty samsara. It is said that all objects of attachment are pairs of opposites. When one rises above these pairs, they realize the supreme. Such a yogi is freed from bondage. The wise should not abandon the body out of aversion to it. Know that once the prarabdha karma responsible for the creation of the body is exhausted, the bodily burden will spontaneously fall away. Worship of deities in holy places, worship of deities through repetition of holy names, sacrifices for ancestors, pilgrimages to sacred places spread across the earth, and observance of great vows. All these are not for the serious practitioner seeking liberation. Completely renounce all religious prescriptions and disciplines. Since all kinds of actions end in bondage, abandon all actions, plans, conflicts of the mind, and attachment to the duties of your circle. Even if the aspirant masters many kinds of supernatural powers and magical abilities and can display them before the world, they should discard attachment of the mind to them. All these powers are merely bonds. In the future, they pull one to follow lower paths. The supreme joy of liberation lies in none of them but only in infinite consciousness. One must consistently practice abiding in emptiness under all conditions, not allowing any particular event to act adversely. If, due to doubts, delusion arises in the form of inclination toward worshiping holy places and temples, reject it immediately. Maintain impartiality toward everything. Do not be swayed by anything. Remain composed in both happiness and suffering. Be the same with friends and enemies. Treat a piece of broken dirty pot and a piece of gold equally. Avoid unnecessary discussions and worldly associations. Do not create discord among others. Do not engage in discussions of scriptures. Abandon both words of abuse and praise. Gradually and completely rid yourself of jealousy, slander, pride, passion, hatred, anger, fear, and sorrow. If a person is free from all pairs of opposites and always lives in solitude, abiding only in oneself, they attain perfect wisdom even in this body and then shine with radiant inner light. Know this: liberation is attained only through knowledge. Supernatural powers, siddhis, cannot yield such a fruit. However, aspirants are enchanted by harmful worldly joys and miraculous powers, siddhis, and passionately seek them. Know that the pure, flawless practitioner will attain liberation, whether they sought supernatural powers or not.